We are at a moment in history where the systems being built today will define how decisions are made, how opportunities are distributed, and how power is exercised for generations to come. We know, all of us in this room, that AI is not neutral. It reflects the data that it is trained on. It reflects the priorities of those who build it, and it reflects the blind spots of the system it inherits, which means if we are not intentional, we risk scaling the very inequities we have spent decades trying to dismantle. That is why your presence in this space is not just important, it is absolutely essential.
Welcome to Work is Weird Now. We've just heard from Lisa Davis, who's the author of The Only Woman in the Room, and she was the keynote speaker at last week's She Shapes AI Conference and Awards. I can't say She Shapes AI. It's like she sells seashells by the seashore.
It's a tricky
Anyway,
one.
hi, Dan. Yeah, how are you?
Oh, hey, Alice. Don't worry, I can't say it either, so we're in safe space.
So today we're going to do an episode wrapping up the amazing event that happened last week, which we both took part in various different ways. And yeah, I think the quote from Lisa was a great place to start for me because it really does sum up what I took away from the day's events, which is effectively women need to be in AI. There's no question. But being in it doesn't mean that we necessarily agree with the direction it's headed. And that was a topic of a lot of discussion that we had. But I think, in fact, being in it, which is definitely evidenced by the people in the room and the amazing women in their projects and the ethical AI and the things that they're doing, is a key part of helping it to head in the better direction. So we can't just stick our heads in the sand. We have to be involved, help to shape it. And hopefully by shaping it, we can take it in a better direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And just I was moved by so much that happens in the whole conference and event. But my closing quote in my notes that I was frantically writing down on my phone was part of that quote that Lisa's just said. And it is systems built today will define how decisions are made for generations to come. And that really makes you think about, our children, family, friends, and that is the impact that we are having now. And that is why we have to be involved.
Absolutely. And you might have seen poor Reese Witherspoon was in the news this week because she said something publicly about how women need to be more involved in AI, learning AI, shaping AI, getting grips with the tools, using it in their professional and personal lives. And there was so much backlash, which is crazy. And, I think part of that is fear-based, as we've discussed in previous episodes. People just want to wish it away because they don't understand it and it feels overwhelming and they think it's going to lead to, upheaval in their lives. And so they'd just rather not cope with it. But I think also people have legitimate concerns about the impact of AI, like the environment and, human connection. So she's only just issued a sort of rebuttal on her social channel saying, look, I am aware of the impact it could have on jobs. I understand the environmental concerns. I care deeply about local communities. I have concerns about AGI. I don't believe that computers should shape humanity because all these things need to be said. But also, women have to be a part of this technological revolution that's happening regardless of how we might feel about it.
Exactly that. I'm sure it was exactly the same when the internet came along or social media came along. And that was also raised during the conference talk and the Oxford debate.
I remember saying, when I first heard about text messages, I was like, there's no way anyone's ever going to text. I was like, people will call each other. Like, why would you ever take time to write a text message? Oh, how wrong I was.
Did you have a pager? I was talking about pagers the other week.
I did not. I think I might be just a touch too young for a pager, but people I know had pagers. Definitely the older boys in my social group had pagers for a while.
And they were so cool, weren't they? And look where we are now.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, let's talk about the day and how it ran and what we saw and what happened so people can get a sense of what it was like to be there. It took place at LSE.
Yeah, my first time going there, which was also pretty inspiring. And the other person that was there recording all of the social content, she said, have you been into the other room to see all of the winners of, was it the Nobel Prize?
Mm-hmm.
She said, there's not one woman in there. And I just thought, oh, wow, and what an event that we're having here. Then we kicked off with the Oxford debate, which was your moment to shine and your very first time in an Oxford debate.
Yes, it was stressful, only because I wasn't quite sure how it was supposed to play out. I think debating is a very specific skill, right? It's one that people learn in school, and it's not one that I ever have used. So it might not have come as a surprise
Did
to
you learn
anybody
it
that
in
I would.
school?
No, but people do, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, as I definitely didn't, and I think that's why I never put my hand up to go for it. So I am fangirling over you for going for it and pushing your comfort zone and
well,
boundary.
we have to live just one step outside our comfort zone, right? Otherwise, we don't
Right.
grow. So I took it on. I went over my time, which was controversial, but I said it aloud a million times, and I was well within the time. But I think when I got up there, theatrics took over a bit, and I paced my words and ended up burning through quite a few more seconds than I thought. But yes, I took the anti-stance in the room. The assertion was that this house believes that AI will lead to an unprecedented era of abundance and human flourishing. And because there were so many people, as you would expect, in the room who were already going to take that position, pro, I was invited to be on the con team, and I can argue about anything. So I stepped into that space, and actually by the end, we convinced the room that ours was the winning position. We were able to shift the room more than the opposing team.
I mean, and this for me was the shock factor of the day. I did not expect for an event that is called She Shapes AI to go to that. So I didn't see that as being the outcome. I was like, well, obviously it's going to be pro, right?
Mm.
So that was a real shock factor. It was Salome who was on your team. I wrote down so many of her points, and I thought everybody was absolutely phenomenal in the arguments that they posed. I think for me, I've got a gut feel it may have been hers that swung. Yeah,
100%. Don't worry, you're
yeah.
not going to hurt my feelings that I was not the one who swayed the team. She was incredible. Her opening state was incredible, but also she did the closing argument, and she just really convinced the room. She was very, very compelling. She's a young person, and so therefore had a slightly different position relative to the topic than the rest of the panel. Effectively, her argument was, we've all heard this before. We were going to have an era of abundance, human flourishing. Why don't we have one now? Her argument is that people only really do things for money. That's really the thing that will push people. And if it doesn't make sense financially to restructure the way that AI is currently functioning, then why would people do it? So the argument was really well made around all of the different ways that AI can scale, support, and change lives. We all believe in its enormous potential, right? But will it actually change the course of history for the positive? Will it lead to flourishing and abundance? Well, no, not if we continue on the trajectory we're on.
Yeah,
So
because
it has a potential.
yeah, and she was saying like, what does good actually look like? What does flourishing with AI mean? And she made those links back to social media, and we're addicted to social media. It's the way it's set up to release dopamine, yada yada. But like she highlighted that 1 in 5 of Gen Zs have got mental health challenges. The unemployment in younger generations is higher than it's ever been. But the generation that are growing up with AI are actually isolated and unsure of themselves. Is that really? That's not flourishing, right?
Right.
So it's she's just really spun it, and I thought it was truly phenomenal. And I think we should have her as a guest for
I
on the
totally
pod
agree.
in the
I've
future.
already whispered that into her ear. So hopefully she will come and speak to us at some point.
Absolutely.
So then after the debates, we moved into a fireside chat. Is that what we're calling it?
It is a fireside chat.
Yeah, with Caroline de Kock and Julia Stamm, who was the founder of She Shapes AI. That was a really interesting discussion.
And hilarious. Bloody hilarious. I have to say that for me that works in her realm and industry, I've never known to be so bloody hilarious, like in the way she
Mm,
just called a spade, right? Like
hmm
there's so many of her snippets that like just rung around my ears, and it's one like we've been listening to marketing bullshit. You can believe that if you want. For absolute years, like we all bought into that this washing powder could make your whites whiter than white. Why are we listening to all this other bullshit that's happening out there? And
mm,
then the other one was around the 180-page guidebook for startups using AI. No startup is reading a 180 page yet. Like some of them risk that is their idea of heaven, but absolutely no chance. Like, why are we investing in this, spending time on this when we're not actually thinking about the real people that we're trying to talk to? Like,
yeah.
bonkers. She was phenomenal. Such a great speaker.
Yeah, and actually, I think to your point around that frankness brought to the debate, I think often who we hear from in this context is the head of the big AI companies who make these huge promises. And, we're taking the words that they speak as truth when ultimately they know no more than we do about what the future will hold relative to AI tools, but also we're letting them influence what the future holds by letting them speak and believing what they say. So actually, it's really nice to have a real frank, down to earth discussion with Caroline.
Loved her, absolutely loved her. And then we moved on to the keynote from Lisa, and talking about her book, The Only Woman in the Room, which was again we've used that soundbite from the beginning, but I actually think I filmed like three of her main points from the book, and just yeah, feeling very. It really reminded me of Lean In. Do you remember the book?
Mm,
I've forgotten the lady's name who wrote that, but that she
Sheryl
was
Sandberg, who's
Sandberg
the
from. But it reminded me of like a more up-to-date version than that. I know that I sit there feeling those feelings, and that other people in the room who are setting up their own businesses based on AI will be feeling it and facing it every single day. So to have
mm,
those key takeaways, I think was really, really powerful and inspiring and motivating.
yeah, absolutely. And then we went into the awards, which took up the rest of the day. How many categories? Somewhere
10.
between 10 and 10. Okay. 10 categories. There were about roughly 3 finalists in each category, and then one winner was selected from that category and announced on the day. And then each of the winners went up, and the topics range from we had climate, we had privacy, we had food. So a real kind of broad range of different sectors. And I think the only real requirement was that the AI tools or platforms or systems that had been developed within each of these categories had to be ethical. They had to demonstrate that they were there to serve some sort of ethical purpose
Hmm.
or social issue, or which they all did, definitely. So we had each of the winners go up and accept their awards. Dan, you presented an award.
I sure did. I presented the Future of Work Award, and that's who we'd interviewed as the three finalists leading up to that. And it was Anna Cejudo who won, of founders. Again, I think everybody that was highly commended and recognised, and also Barbara from Leverly was recommended as like a highly commended at the beginning of the awards too. Just honestly, nothing but sensational. I just want to call out before we go into actually some of the topics and themes that we took away from it. Um, is that they'd had the most applications to judge the awards this year. And considering
Hmm.
this is an awards and conference that's only in year two, I think that's truly amazing, like truly, truly amazing, and from totally global.
And also, it felt like the winners were a bit of a mix, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, but it felt like it was a bit of a mix of people who were clearly very accomplished, had long-term careers within technology, and then other people for whom this was their first award they'd ever won, were new to the industry, had come from a different sector into the AI world. And so it was just a real nice combination of different types of people doing different types of things in different locations too. We had people in New Zealand and Africa, and yeah, a real international blend as well.
Blew my mind, and this blew my mind on the train home with my Pret sandwich, thinking,
We were very hungry at the end
with,
of the
yeah,
of the
w- but yeah, I was just thinking like, what truly blew me away is that they've everybody who was in the final recognized had seen an issue or experienced a problem themselves or
um,
experienced something themselves and seen the opportunity to turn it into a solution using AI to help others.
yeah, but that is one of the most exciting things I think about this moment, about the potential that AI offers women in particular, but not just women. I think anybody who's historically been left out of VC conversations, who haven't been well positioned to start businesses because they lacked access to capital or resources or networks or time. Those people are now much more empowered to be able to start something because the tools are available. And to your point, I think this is where we get into the topic of lived experience and domain expertise, right? So if we look at subjects like health, and that's not just health in terms of kind of a knowledge of health, nurses, people who work in health systems around the world every day, but also people who've suffered at the hands of a healthcare
Mm,
system, right? People who've had their own health incidents, who've have this lived experience of what fails in healthcare systems when they're needed most. And I think if you look at that type of experience, now you can actually take that lived experience, and that is the best thing to have to start to
Yeah.
direct an AI to deliver some sort of solution to it. And I think that gets me really excited. I'm just on a personal note, I'm taking an AI builder course right now with Yaroslav, friend of the pod. And one of the things I'm starting to explore is, what if we turn this podcast into a product? What does a nonlinear career brought to a AI solution look like?
Watch this space. You heard it here first.
So nobody steal that idea.
But also, there was some women who called out. There was friends, family, colleagues, peers all said to them, "What on earth are you doing?" When they left their big corporate roles or whatever it was to go and do this. They were all, they'd all received the, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's probably, if anyone is sitting here thinking, I want to do it, you're going to get those comments, or that feedback. And I think this should inspire you to take the plunge and take the risk, because what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So just going back to some of the big takeaways that we had from the awards then, I posted a couple on LinkedIn, and I think we can use that sort of as a structure to talk through some of the things that we observed on the day. So first of all, as I said before, I think that AI solves a kind of access problem for women. And I think, so to go back to the point we made at the beginning of the episode, so many people are scared of it. And I think, if you have any idea whatsoever, anything that you know a lot about, now is the time to get to grips with the tools that are available to you. And I was just going to set up this clip we have from Dalma Sabo, who created a solution called Oh, a Potato, which is a great name. Which helps families to deal with food waste. She's created an AI-powered meal planning app that deals with that. And we have this clip where she talks about the tools that she uses, and I will tell you afterwards what I found surprising about it.
So we don't have one tool. I think that they are changing so fast that we keep trying different tools, so we are not really dependent on one. So we are constantly switching between cloud code or codecs, or we are also trying smaller open source tools to see which one works better. So yeah, I would say that we are experimenting a lot because AI is helping us make things that we couldn't do 3 years ago, but it's still not the answer to everything. So when it comes to food waste, it is a lot about leftover optimization. Then there is a lot about, we know that each household has their own habits and recipe preferences and routines, and we know that they won't change them for an app.
So what's interesting is she mentions the same tools that we all have free access to. So things like Claude Code and the ChatGPT version of Claude Code, and the fact that, we can actually just use this stuff right now, starting today. And that got me quite excited, because I think, again, we look at these founders, these people who are building these amazing things, and we think they have some insight or some intel into technology solutions or some knowledge that we don't have. And actually, all of this is available to us every day. So I got quite excited about that.
It's super cool.
So I also wanted to go back to our point around domain expertise, right? And that being a superpower. I was really touched by Maha Chouini, who accepted the AI and Thought Leadership Award.
I don't think there was a dry eye in the room.
I know.
On that one.
I know.
Yeah.
It was the last one of the day. And I think it was so moving just to hear her talk about her experience with the healthcare system and how that has influenced what she does, which is around advancing a decolonial approach to AI governance and bringing Arab, Muslim, and African perspectives into global policy conversations through the writing and dialogue that she creates. So yeah, let's hear from Maha.
This award means something particular to me because the work it recognizes was born not in a boardroom or a research lab, but in a hospital room. It was my illness, my own encounter with complicated cancer, that taught me what it truly means to move through a system as a patient, as a woman, as a person whose complexity could not be reduced to a file or a data or a point. That experience became my compass. I work at the intersection of artificial intelligence ethics, policy, and advocacy, because I believe that technology has a moral responsibility, not only to be intelligent, but to be just, to be fair. And when I think about women across Africa, the Middle East, the global South, who navigate health system daily, feeling unseen and unheard, I'm reminded that this is not an abstract challenge, this is an urgent. And receiving this award is a reminder that the voice we bring into this room matters, that lived experience is not a footnote to expertise, it is expertise. And that when we design artificial intelligence with dignity at its center, we do not simply build better technology, we build a more human world.
Also, on the point of domain expertise, there was a woman called Jacqueline Comer from New Zealand who won the AI and Safety Award. And I thought it was quite nice because she talked about how she turned her expertise in linguistics into a tool that analyzes microaggressions and scams in real life to make digital spaces safer.
The data that Jacqueline had on this about the impact that they made was absolutely amazing, like truly amazing. And I haven't written it down, which is really annoying, but we could, I'll pop it into the show notes, but it's definitely a tool worth checking out.
And then also just wanted to mention Ghislaine, who is using AI-driven blood transfusion to improve patient safety, again, because of her intimate knowledge of the healthcare system there. So again, just to repeat ourselves, domain expertise is now a superpower. So those things that you know, those really matter, and they matter more than ever, and they're now scalable too.
Okay.
So what was really interesting is the variety of women that were there as well and who won the awards. We had, Priya from Earth ID, who came from a tech background, so she set up her security platform and was the winner of the AI and Security Award. And that was very much rooted in her career spent in technology. We also had Chantal, who won the AI and Creative Industries Award. She developed a tool called Parallax, which is AI-mediated dialogue system that structures and de-escalates conversations between people with opposing political views, very necessary in today's world. And she actually talked about how it was her first award and how she'd traveled to London with a friend, and totally different perspective, but equally an award winner doing an amazing thing.
Yeah, she was so emotional, so emotional.
Yeah, it was lovely. And then we had Maria Sierra, who's the winner of AI in Education, who's equipping Latin America's nonprofits with practical AI tools and training. She's supporting 400 plus organizations across 27 countries to strengthen digital capacity for social impact at scale. So it's like a real mix of geographies, of levels of maturity relative to the industry. It was just a really, really fascinating mix.
It really was. So the final takeaway is that AI favors the scrappy and underrated. And in many traditional workplaces, women who are seen to speak up too much get branded, as problematic. They have to work twice as hard to be in the room that are so often built for others. I think we talked about that in Lisa Davis's book, with reference that we'd made to the Lean In movement as well. And some of the content that we experienced was that, unless you do that, unless you have that kind of grit and drive to wing it and give it a go, you don't actually know what is going to be on the other side of the door. And trying to fit into this system that is made that you're not quite fitting into, square peg round hole, if it's not working, try another route, because there will be another way, right? And I think that AI is enabling women to do that better, faster, stronger, or just by doing it. And I think then are reaping the benefits. And even despite some of the amazing work that's been done, and I wanted to touch on Rihanna Spring, who won the Wildcard Award for Sophia Chat. Like, if she hadn't have done that, she wouldn't have created this phenomenal platform that is supporting women who are victims of domestic violence and abuse, right? And that is a horrific topic, but the work that she has done by having that grit, having that determination, by being bold, by stepping out of her comfort zone, by doing what people were saying why are you doing that? Are you mad? Look at the impact that she has then had. So here we hear from Rihanna at the show.
And I'm so sick of the excuses of, oh, we didn't find a woman. There is always a woman. There is always a woman of color. Like you're putting a specific emphasis on this as well. There's just, don't take excuses. If you're booking them, is there like a one panel? That doesn't work as well, does it? No. So it's like this, like this, a panel like this. And if you want women build inclusive workplaces, if you're a woman, it's like that encourages as well. But the tools that we use is we build it ourselves because it has to be so secure. And my team is entirely women and non-binary engineers, and people are so surprised. And it's like, because I create the job ads for women's realities, so we need a full-time engineer. But my job ad will say part-time because mothers will most likely not be able to work full-time. It will tell you that you have flexible working hours, that you can go and pick up your kids, because as much as we want to live in a gender equal world, we're not quite there yet. So it mostly is the mother. So really put an emphasis on that and then draw them out. So I put more women forward, because you just honestly, for women to be at the level that we are probably 10 times better than, men were on the stage right now. So,
and Rihanna had a job at the UN. So she was one of those people that you referenced who was like, when she left, they were like, you're doing what? You're building a chatbot? And her product preceded like ChatGPT becoming mainstream. And so it really was a bit of a new thing. And, it is something, she gave a very impassioned plea about sharing it and saying that her stat was 1 in 4 women will be a victim of domestic abuse at some point in their lifetimes. And so just by us sharing Sophia.chat, which actually is completely private, secure, but also helps you build a case every time you interact with it, so that if you do need to flee, you've got that resource available to you and you've got a history of what's happened to you. Really, really amazing stuff, and definitely worth sharing. That Sophia.chat.
Yeah. We're going to do a whole post on that separately, I think, because that was the one takeaway. She's like, if I just ask anybody to just share this, that is, and again, the data that she had and the impact that she's had in such a short space of time is truly, truly phenomenal.
Yeah. And then we're going to hear from Serena Ulea, who is the founder and CEO of RecycleX. We hear a lot about, especially these kind of tech leaders, CEOs, talking publicly about the potential of AI and how it can solve environmental problems and it can solve healthcare problems and all these things, but we don't see the real commitment and prioritization of those types of issues in the kind of wider AI context. I know they're happening, but they're maybe not happening at the scale that we would expect given the quantity of promises that we hear. But here's Serena actually showing that it can work, and you can actually apply AI to solve problems like detecting microplastics in water. She was the winner of the AI and Climate Award, and here she's talking about her product and how she uses AI day to day.
So I'm the CEO and founder of RecycleX. We are building the first infrastructure for marine plastic recovery, starting from detecting the plastic waste in the sea using AI satellite images and orchestrating the cleanups coast by coast locally with the partners that are already doing it now, and delivering verified impact for the ones that are paying for the interventions, the coastal authorities and the companies.
So we've got 2 final clips now that we wanted to finish on, and one was the winner of the Future of Work Award, Anna Sahudo, who we had on the podcast, and she really talked beautifully about responsible AI, and that if we use it in the right way and we're not dependent on it, we can do more and achieve so much more. So let's hear from Anna.
When we explain what responsible AI is, we talk about co-responsibility, meaning that those that create the systems are responsible for making sure that they are compliant with the safety, legal issues, ethics, etc. But also the responsibility is for us as users to make sure that we use it the right way. So here's why training is very important. We really need to know how to use the tool in order that it doesn't make us dependent on it. But otherwise, we use it in a way that it can really help us being aware of our strengths and also our weaknesses, so that it challenges us as a sparring body, and then we can really use it in a way that it can elevate ourselves and get the most out of it and help us be more and achieve more.
Yeah, Amazing. So the last clip that we want to finish on is from Julia Stam, the CEO and founder of She Shapes AI, and we grabbed her for this clip just before everything was about to start. She probably hated us for it, but it's quite a nice clip to finish on because we asked her what she wanted to get from the day, and all that we wanted to say is that we hope that you got that. Let's say from Julia.
How are you?
I'm excited. I'm well, but very excited.
We're about 20 minutes before the show kicks off, so we just thought we'd seize the opportunity to ask you, what are you hoping to get out of today?
I think 2 words, if I'm allowed, joy and hope.
Well, hopefully Yulia got those things. We certainly did. It was definitely a day of joy. It was definitely a day of hope. Despite the debate having a somewhat negative result, we are all hopeful that AI can and will eventually lead to the promise of abundance and human flourishing realized. So fingers crossed for that. And in the meantime, we have She Shapes AI providing a great space for us to continue to explore and promote ethical AI from amazing, talented women.
And we are super grateful for being invited to be involved. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.